Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rogers Kakasungura YouTube channel. President William Samoei Ruto is in the United States of America, and from the information we have from his team, he has already met with Joe Biden, and he has already met the Congress that he was supposed to speak to. But let me say this. As a patriotic Kenyan, I am deeply embarrassed from what I witnessed. Totally embarrassed. I'll give my reasons and defend my argument. But before I do that, can we listen to William Ruto's speech in front of the Americans?
Today, countries like Kenya borrow in the financial markets 8 times more in interest than other countries. And that is the case for most African countries. We are saying the Congressional Black Caucus, this great institution, the American Congress, should lead the way in making sure that the international financial architecture, the World Bank, the IMF, multilateral development banks, are fashioned in a manner that gives every country a chance to borrow concessional resources so that we can develop our countries and we can deal with the effects of climate change, of floods, of droughts. And that no country spends more money servicing debt than paying for healthcare or education or social services for their citizens. The World Bank and IMF are doing what they can. I have tremendous respect for Ajay Banga, and I have tremendous respect for Kristalina. But this Congress, ladies and gentlemen, we request you, and I was asked specifically to ask the American Congress to double its contribution to IDA, the concessional window of the World Bank that makes sure that countries like Kenya can have resources not 8 times more expensively, but as the same as other countries.
We are already working on it.
I am happy you're already
Working on it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know, I have always told you Ruto is a smart, cunning politician. He speaks like he's a revolutionalist. But munakumbuka akipigwa makofi kwamba there's a time Ruto was addressing African heads of state na akasema it is time for Africa to operate on his own currency and the time is now. Wakapiga makofi. Where did that discussion end to? Let me tell you something that you didn't know. Hiring 200 million jets to just go and beg the West to lower borrowing interest rates for countries like Kenya is the greatest mockery of our time. That is why I like Museveni and the former Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli. And Museveni warned Ruto about these things few days ago here in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, yani unahaya jet ya 200 million. Unaenda Marekani just to go and beg Americans to lower for you borrowing rates. This is a mockery of the highest order. Why am I saying this? The banks you guys are begging have been in existence even way before the Kenya's independence. Those who read history, the International Monetary Fund was established in 1944. That's about 20 years before Kenya's independence. The World Bank was established the very same year, 1944. 60 years ago. Now, if this, as Museveni says, if these banks were serious on developing, how can I put it? If these banks were serious about developing those countries that are developing like Kenya, then it could have done it long time ago. If they were serious about developing our countries, especially Kenya, kama World Bank na IMF was serious on making sure that Kenya is developing with its resources through the support from such banks, we could have developed long time ago. But 60 years down the line, we still believe they will help us develop. What dreams? Now, a man living on debt or a man living in debt, the Bible says is a cursed man. He is always frustrated, always stressed. And Kaka, the book of Proverbs, chapter number 22, verse 7, I want to quote the way it says, "The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower becomes the lender's slave." You got it right. The rich, developed countries will keep ruling over developing countries like Kenya, and developing countries like Kenya will continue being slaves to developed countries like the Americans. Whether you like it or not, these are true facts. Something that Ruto should be aware of, and the sad reality that you cannot erase, is this: there is no single day that banks like World Bank and the IMF can develop developing countries so that they can depend on themselves. Sahau. So hiyo makofi mumesikia hapo, au wazungu wanaangalia wanasema, we, na haka tumekashika kweli. Haka tumekakamata. Hayo makofi sio eti kilichosemwa ni cha maana sana. 60 years down the line, you want your interest rates to be lowered. 60 years down the line since inception. How many presidents, powerful even than you, have walked along that path? Has those banks ever listened to developing countries like Kenya so that they come and listen now? Some wet dreams needs people to wake up. We have become slaves of the West because we keep borrowing not to develop but to misuse. We are borrowing to renovate State House, a building that cannot give returns. We are borrowing to purchase cars, things that cannot give returns, liabilities. We are borrowing to employ more CAS, people who can't give returns. We are borrowing to hire expensive jets at the rate of 200 million to go and borrow more. The same minds want to make us believe that the IMF and World Bank will help countries like Kenya develop. The same minds. I don't know if I think too much. I don't know. The same individual The same person who proudly told us that as a country we can build our own resources. As a country, we cannot borrow to develop. Today, the very same person has hired a 200 million jet to go and beg the West to lower interest rates for him. The kind of leaders we have in this country. They preach wine during the day, but at night they're taking water. They preach tea during the day, but at night they are taking porridge. And they are not even ashamed of themselves. Sometimes, kaka, I feel like nipewe hawa viongozi na nyaunyo. Niwaketishe chini, niwaulize, wewe mwaka jana ulituambia nini? Mwaka jana ulikuwa unasema nini? Na leo unasema nini? Mwaka jana ulikuwa unatuambia we can't borrow. Na leo umeenda Amerika, unataka tuende kuboro ili yani nitawanyuka kweli kweli. The same people who told us they want to cut costs. They are just borrowing a jet of 200 million to go and benefit the USA. Because economists, you can agree with me on one thing. Ruto's visit to the USA is beneficial more to the host country as compared to us. Because the USA is striking business deals with Ruto. Vile wataanza kuleta vitu Kenya, vile makampuni zao zitapewa biashara na mambo mengine. So the USA will benefit more in this trip than how Kenya will benefit. Kenya, we keep losing our taxpayers' money. Yani, tunabembeleza wazungu, warudishe rates chini. We keep borrowing to go and buy expensive suits. They lower interest rates. We keep borrowing to go and buy expensive belts. Who cursed this country? Who cursed Kenya? Who cursed this country? Nani aliroga hii taifa la Kenya? Labda tufanye tambiko tuulize kina Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Nani aliroga taifa la Kenya lakini? Nani aliroga Kenya hii lakini? Anyway, God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. We are just a cursed country, a cursed generation. I am embarrassed. God bless you. See you in the next video. Asanteni sana.